Hey there, how are you this morning? I'm Connie Foote with Foote Title Group, where we try to help you with information that may get you in a right direction or spur a question or maybe get you to ask someone some thoughts or maybe even bring up an idea that you didn't understand was something you needed to know with respect to real estate. So we try to come together for you a couple of times a week and offer you information that hopefully is helpful in your pursuit of looking at real estate to buy or to sell, maybe some questions that you may need answered, maybe in the direction of helping find some professionals to work with, some people that know a lot about the industry, and you can ask the right questions. Good morning, Sherry. Hey there, Bev. How are you this morning? I'm so sorry to hear about your accident, and I hope you're okay. So this morning I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about this protecting your home ownership thing. Let me turn this just a little bit because I feel like I'm on a slant. Sorry about that. So, you know, we talk all the time. Good to hear it. I hope you're feeling a lot better real soon. It sure looked like a crazy accident, so I hope everything's okay. So we talk a lot about different things about real estate. We talk about buying houses. We talk about mortgages. We talk about some things about closing. We talk about, earlier this week, we talked about HOA dues. We talk about all different kinds of things to help you with information that hopefully you need to be successful when you're looking at buying a piece of real estate or selling a piece of real estate. So today I wanted to talk about the concept and the real fact of the matter that someone could actually take away your home after you go to closing. How can that happen? What's the process? Why does that even, how can that even come into play? It just doesn't even seem real, right? So I talk to you a lot of times about the three most important things that you need to think about when you're buying a piece of real estate. Number one, find the right realtor. You know, your friends may refer you to a realtor, and it may be somebody who is great in their profession, but they may not have the personality to work for you. So you need to find the right realtor. You need to find a mortgage professional that you like to work with. Again, maybe somebody that a friend referred, or maybe a neighbor, or somebody that has, again, a lot of experience in the industry, but you're going to give all your financial information to that person. So you want to make sure that you find the right person that fits your needs. And the third and very important thing is that you need to find the title company that's going to do your closing, and that, you know, all of the things we think about closing have to do with what happens leading up to closing. So the company that does your closing pulls all the pieces together. They fix any problems in the ownership chain to make sure that your ownership is clear. They pull everybody together, so they come together and the closing happens all together at the same time with everybody at the table, and they make everything smooth after you sign your contract and your mortgage gets approved. But the other piece of the puzzle, and honestly, in my mind, probably the most important piece of that puzzle, is they make sure that your home ownership after that closing is protected. And the way that they do that is it starts at the very beginning when the contract is written, when it's passed off to the title company. That's when the title company's job actually starts in protecting your home ownership. Hey there, Marie. How are you? Thanks for tuning in. Hey, Brian. I've been thinking about you guys a lot. I hope Carrie's starting to get a little bit better, and hopefully you'll be able to be broken out of that place soon. So I've been thinking about you guys. Thanks for tuning in. So it's the title company's job actually starts when we get the contract and we go to do an actual search in the land records on that piece of property. And one of the things that we do with that search is we actually research that information and go back and look at all of the owners previously that owned the piece of property that you're looking to purchase. And the reason that we do that, even though it may have changed hands 1 time, 5 times, 100 times, is we want to make sure that every piece is in place so your ownership is totally protected, and that someone can't come back later after closing and say, hey, my sister owned that piece of property and she passed away before the property was transferred and not everybody signed off. I didn't get to sign off on my interest, so I actually have an ownership interest. That's one of the many ways that your ownership could be in jeopardy. So the title company's job is to make sure that they research that title very intently to make sure that all of those pieces are in the right place. Hey there, Jacob. Good morning, birthday girl. Happy birthday, Karen. Thanks for tuning in, guys. So not only do we pull all the pieces together as far as the closing and make sure that all of the numbers are in the right place and all the people are at the right place at the right time, but the biggest part of our job is to make sure that we do all the research in that ownership chain, in that title, to make sure that there isn't an ownership interest somewhere previously that someone could come back and make a claim against your ownership once you purchase the property. And that happens in lots of different ways, not just the example that I just explained, but when we talk about estates, or we talk about earlier, I think last week we talked a little bit about tenancy and how you actually own a piece of property with someone else. That can cause an ownership issue. Let's say, for example, or let's say two people owned a piece of property together and they were estranged spouses. And one was here and the other one was on a vacation in Europe. And in the time that one was on vacation, the other one actually brought somebody else to the closing table to sign off on the other one's interest and sold the piece of property. And this happened, this has happened a lot, but more recently, this kind of thing happened because people are getting a lot more creative with the online presence. And this actually happened maybe about 5 or 6 years ago in a family where the kids were home, grown adult children. They still lived at home, and the parents had gone on a trip. And the children actually sold the property out from under them. And while they were on the trip, the parents had no idea what was going on, and the parents came back and someone else was living in the house. So yeah, you actually own that piece of property, but if all of the pieces aren't taken care of at the closing to make sure that the people that are at the table are the people that are supposed to be signing the documents, that the ownership actually has passed properly through the previous owners. Let's talk about another scenario. Let's say that there is what we call an easement. It's an actual access use to a piece of property that allows you to get in and out of that piece of property. If that easement isn't properly taken care of, the ownership isn't properly defined in that ownership chain of title earlier on, then potentially somebody could actually close off the access to your piece of property and you'd have trouble getting into your home. And so maybe that isn't an example of somebody taking your home, it's an example of somebody taking the right of way for you to be able to get into that home. And it sounds like, wow, that's easily fixable, but some of these things go to the extent that you have to go to court and you have a legal battle ensue. And so the protection that you get at closing is actually an insurance policy that insures your ownership. And that's what we talk about protecting your home ownership, is we do all of that research to make sure that anything that could affect that ownership is resolved before closing. And I know sometimes you may have been to go to a closing for your home and you find out a week before, well, we can't close because there's a title issue that has to be resolved. You need to take respect for that, because that company that's telling you that wants to make sure that no one can come and knock on that door after closing and say, hey, I have an ownership interest in that property and you're going to have to get out, or we're going to court to address that. And that's a real possibility in a lot of different ways. I've given you a few examples of things that can happen, but that happens so much more frequently than you would expect. And so the title insurance policy, it's an actual insurance policy, just like your homeowner's insurance or your car insurance or your life insurance. It's an insurance policy that ensures that your ownership is protected, and it covers you for as long as you own that property. So if somebody doesn't figure out or uncover that maybe they have an interest today, next week, maybe you close today, and maybe next week or next month or even next year you haven't heard anything about it and you think, oh gosh, everything's great. Sometimes these things take a little while to unearth, and people involved in family situations, that's where we see the most common. is maybe someone passed away and you didn't realize there was several heirs that needed to sign off on that ownership. So sometimes we see these things that don't drag out, and maybe you don't see an ownership claim for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, those types of things. You know, other things that can affect that ownership that can really allow someone to take away that ownership is if someone had a mortgage previously on that property that wasn't properly paid off and removed from the ownership of that property. So when we talk about those things, hey there, Tammy, how are you today? Hey, Bridget, I hope everybody's doing okay in your family and everybody's safe. That was just a horrible tragedy I saw. So hugs to you guys, and I hope everybody's doing okay. So, you know, when we talk about this ownership thing, you know, the mortgage or judgment against an ownership can affect that ownership, and they may not require you to move out of that property or take away your home, but they have a secured interest in the property that maybe someone previously in that chain of ownership, when doing a closing, didn't properly take care of that. And so because of it, again, you could be fighting a legal battle that could be very expensive and could effectively cause someone to be able to take away that home, to sell it. You know, we talk about mortgages all the time and how mortgage companies are very protective of making sure all the pieces are right because they're loaning so daggone much money. One of the things that's really important to know about this, if their loan isn't properly paid off and released from that ownership, then they could actually, someone from that mortgage company could actually come back later and say, you know, I see that this property has changed hands and it shouldn't have. We have this mortgage, and you as the new owner could be potentially responsible for that. I mean, yes, the owner that you purchased from actually owed that money, but the problem is you may not be able to find that person. And now you live in this home and you have all of your furnishings in there, your decorations, and you're very comfortable living in your home, and now someone's saying, I have an interest. You have to defend yourself, and you may not owe any of it, but you have to go to court and fight it sometimes. So all of these things will be protected by that insurance policy that you get through your closing company. Hey, Cecilia, how are you? Hey, Steve, thanks so much for tuning in. So when you sit at that closing table and somebody talks to you about title insurance and you don't really understand what that means, don't let someone talk you out of that. That's something that's really an important piece of the puzzle, because it insures you after the closing to make sure that no one can come and take that ownership away from you. So it covers you for as long as you own the property. There's no deductible like any other insurance, and it covers you today going forward for things that happened previously in that ownership. And so it's a really important piece to make sure that your ownership is protected. And there's so many different things that can happen. One of the things that we talked about is the ability for cyber criminals to be able to really make, really affect ownership. And one of the reasons that cyber criminals really focus on home ownership is because there's a lot of money involved. And so people are really able to do a lot of things creatively online, as we all know. And it's just as dangerous to be concerned about them doing it to your home, and your title insurance can protect you and make sure that anything that's happened before you purchase that property, you will be covered. So when we talk about somebody being able to take your home away, we're talking about somebody that knows something, or maybe they don't know something, they discovered something after you took ownership that you actually have to defend yourself. So maybe they can take away your home, or maybe you just have to pay them an amount to cover what their expenses for whatever that outstanding issue is that they had when you took ownership. Hey there, Tony, how are you? So hopefully that gave you a little bit of food for thought. You don't have to remember all these things, but as I said to you earlier, one of the things I want you to do is, as we talk about these things every couple of days, is maybe they spur some questions. Maybe you know somebody that's buying a piece of property or buying a home, and you should say to them, hey, this is something you should watch because it's something that you maybe should know about. So I want you to start thinking about, as we talk, as you may know people that are getting ready to do this. I mean, the weather is fantastic here in Southern Maryland and in Virginia, and so the East Coast is just having a wonderful heat wave, and a lot of people are getting out and starting to look at homes, and you may know one of those people. And so if you would share the information that we're talking about, it would be a huge help to me so I can help them understand what's going on, but it'd also be a huge help to them, because there's all kinds of information that we want to share to maybe spur some questions that'll help them out. So someone can take away your home after closing if that title had not been properly cleared up and if they don't have insurance to protect their ownership. And that protection covers them for as long as they own the property. So hopefully I helped you a little bit with something different. Maybe you didn't understand. If you have more questions or you want some more information, please reach out to me. Please message me. Please feel free to email me. You can go to our website. You can reach out to any of our team members in Maryland or Virginia. They're all well versed in both states and they can help answer any questions that you have. We look forward to working with you guys. I'm Connie Foote with Foote Title Group, where we protect your home ownership. Have a great Thursday, guys, and enjoy this fabulous weather, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.